Hey guys and gals, I got another one for you today. Today we are on Siegfried Line, platooned up with Pgilby and Thyderion, and we're going to get three different perspectives of Siegfried Line. So let's break down the map for you. If you are in a fast tank with good vision to camo, getting to F1, F2 is very good, especially because you're probably going to have TDs on the back line over here, or essentially on the 6 line, A line for the north, and they're going to be able to help you take the field. Now, if you can get into F5, F6, you can definitely help your team out and get good shots from there into the field as well. You'll also keep whatever is spotting the field safe. And if the enemy team gets into that position, you kiss your butt goodbye if you're in F1. The rest of the team is generally going to go to city, and we will break city down even more. So when it comes to city, there's a bunch of different alleys, and to me this is one of the hardest maps when I first started. I just didn't understand. Every time I'd take city, I felt like I didn't push hard enough, or I'd push too hard, and I always ended up with a loss. So really, when it comes to city battles, it's rotating when the other team is not paying attention. This is my favorite alleyway to go down. If you are in the south, Artie can hit you there, so be careful. The second position I like to take is this hull down position in the south. You can get shots in two different areas. And then the outside one, I'm really not a huge fan of. To speed in that area, there is hardly anything to shoot at. And if you give up the zero line, chances are they're going to get stuck on the south end of town and they're not going to proceed. And then the last two are the ones on the left. These are very dangerous arty positions. Not to mention you can get shot from the tank destroyers on the back line. However, in this city, I feel like if you can take this central location and then hold that, or your team holds that, you rotate around, or your team rotates around, flanks them, you will be in good business. Alright, so you see I'm the only one heading out to the field. I do have a tank destroyer heading down the K line. Pgilby is heading to the middle location in F5. Once again, I said that's generally pretty dangerous, but you can get really good shots there as well. Now I'm going to get into F1, F2, and generally when you pop up here, you're spotted because the other team is trying to counter your position. Now what I'm doing is just trying to get closer to the city. That way I can spot the 6 line if they have anyone waiting for me over there. And they don't have anyone, so I'm thinking that they didn't send any tanks at all, so I'm going to push up north, and then I realize that they have a SU-122-54 all the way on the A line, and he didn't spot me, but I spotted him. Before I shoot, I want to be able to get into a position of cover, and if he has teammates back there that I haven't spotted, or there's a bunch of teammates on the 6 line I haven't spotted, then I will get wrecked. So I'm going to circle back around. I didn't realize Gilbs was down there. I thought he was going to take more of a city position, and my TDs in the back line obviously won't be able to render this SU-122-54. So as I shoot, I do get spotted, so I got to duck down. You can get hit by Artie here as well, so you need to be careful. So what I'm doing is just trying to get closer to the city once again and see if I can spot the 6 line. We do have a scout that's like an E6, which is pretty interesting, that he isn't spotting anything, but he might be behind the rubble. So I sneak in a shot on the SU-122, and that's really what the Leopard is great for. This gun is phenomenal when fully aimed. You can count on it to hit some pretty amazing shots. Alright, so now we're going to move north since the 54 fell back. I look to see what the TD is that's following me. It's a 268. Get another shot into the 54. And now their 6 line is lit up. And the funny thing about tank destroyers, or really even sniping heavies or sniping mediums, is once they get lit, how quickly they will run away. And that's what I call sixth sense syndrome. A lot of people think like as soon as their light bulb goes off, that's going to equate to them taking damage. I mean, it's not the dumbest thing to move your position once you're spotted, because obviously you can get hit by arty or anything that's looking at you. However, if you have a spotter and you get spotted and then you back up out of your position, the enemy team knows that you backed out of that position, and generally they'll just go kill your spotter, and you have to eventually just give up that side of the map because you obviously don't have a spotter. So if that makes sense. Makes sense in my head. Alright, so there's a lot of TDs on that ledge. They also have 5 TDs on their team, as well as arty, so I don't want to rush in. I feel like if I get spotted, I will probably get, or I'll have to take a lot of damage, and I don't need to take damage right now. I can pretty much just get the shots that are available to me, and then once the red team falls into the city, then I'll be able to make my push. We're up to 7 pens. We got 1 kill. We only have 2 spots. So, I mean, our scout was in the E6 location. That shot gets us spotted. We were shooting through the bush. I have an amazing crew in this tank, so it's almost like a light tank. But when you shoot, your camo gets a lot worse. So, if you didn't know that, you have a certain camo rating, and you can keep people outside of your camo or detection circle, which is the white circle on the map, but I don't have one here because I'm in replay mode, and they just don't have replay mode set up the same way as in-game mode is. But anyways, if they're outside your detection circle, they're probably not going to spot you unless you're stationary or you have a camo net up, and then your camo is a tighter circle, and once you shoot, you lose that camo rating. So anything within the circle when you shoot, which is like a split second, it expands, if they have enough vision to see your position, then you're going to be lit up. So generally, like when you poke a ridge, you should fall back right away, and then if your sixth sense goes off, that means that somebody can see you, so don't sit up on top of that ridge. And then also, if you shoot back over the said ridge, and then if you are detected when you back up, they will be able to see you every time you shoot. So get undetected, go back up there, shoot, back up, rinse, repeat until their enemies are dead. Now Pgilby pushes up, and I was a little late on comms there, but we're able to give him some assistance. He gets the Connie. And now I'm just going to push in there, get a nice snapshot on the 1390, and arty misses us, which is great because the artillery usually can wreck leopards. Ram into this T30, arty hits him, we get a shot into him. Look over at arty, trying to get loaded here, and Pgilby takes him down. That was the view of the field in the leopard. Now, it wasn't the most exciting stuff that I've ever seen Siegfried Line field battle, because obviously they didn't send anything, so I didn't get to show you guys that. And it's also kind of going to hinder Pgilby's play as well, because the position he takes, generally there's a lot more shots to be had, as well as that position being very dangerous for him. So first of all, he's got to learn how to drive. Continually hits all these cement barriers. He's in his Waffle E100. When he first started playing the game, he took a liking to tank destroyers. He became very good at tank destroyer play, and just being the patient guy on your team that's ready to destroy things when you absolutely need your tank destroyer to step up. He found really good firing lanes,
that I didn't even know about, where he would just set up and support the team rather than just like the outside of the map where a lot of tank destroyers generally go. I would say he'd be a somewhat aggressive tank destroyer without being a frontline assault tank, if that makes sense. Like when I'm in my tank destroyers, I like to go up in the front, support my heavies, and blow people to smithereens or die trying. And that generally will either win the game for our team or lose the game for our team, depending on how well I do. Not to say that like I'm the only one on the team, but if you'll notice, a lot of the times your wins come when the tank destroyers participate versus the alternative of when they all sit by the base and camp and they don't want to leave their bushes because they're safe, because they're not spotted and they can shoot from a distance. Now, generally, if there is a tank in E1 or E2, they can get vision over here, and then that SU-122-54 would have shots over towards them. But then they would have to try to keep my side clean and make sure that the guy in E1, E2 doesn't come over to shoot me. And it just becomes this really big crossfire in the field, and it's really fun when it's all set up and each team has like equivalent tanks. It is kind of annoying when you're on the losing end of it, but when you are on the winning end of it and you have good communication with your platoon mates and you're working those crossfires, it is phenomenal. So Gibbs is taking it slow. Another nice thing about this position is you can support city if needed. So if Thyderion needs Pgilby to come up here and do some work, he definitely can do that. Now, once again, you're at a huge risk. Artillery sometimes likes to sit in A5. He can shoot down these two alleyways like we talked about in the beginning. And as a waffle, arties take a liking to shooting waffles probably as much as they do, maybe more than shooting leopards. But they do a lot of damage because this thing does not have a lot of armor in the turret, obviously. Alright, so Gilby pushes up, sees a tank destroyer, misses that first shot, pushes back. Didn't really have to trade any hit points there. Now he's going to push back up, get 600 into that tank destroyer, misses his third shot. That tank destroyer falls back, so he pushes up a little bit further, and he takes out their SU-122-54. Our 5100 takes out a Waffle E100, and now these two I think are falling back to reload. Yeah, here comes the 5100. And since Gilby knows that we own the field, he can safely back up into this position, reload, and he fixes his gun. Unfortunately, he's going to have a broken turret, and that's one thing that is really annoying about the Waffle. I mean, it's a balancing mechanic because this gun is just can erase a mouse off the map, but A, you're going to get wrecked with HE shells if they're hitting you. B, your modules are going to get broken a lot. C, you just can't hide this thing. So a lot of people like to hide in the way back and in a position that they're not going to be spotted. Some people like to be on the front line and be around a corner, and then after the enemy shoot, you pull out, you dump your clip, you pull back into cover. But as much as people hate this tank and think it's OP, I just look at it as a big box of hit points. Now, when I first started, I was absolutely terrified of this thing, but I was terrified of a lot of tanks. I mean, when you don't understand the mechanics of the shells, knowing that HE will destroy this thing faster, or knowing weak points of tanks, there's just a lot of scary tanks. One in particular that nobody ever says is overpowered is the T-29. When the T-29 is hull down, that thing can be an absolute monster, especially if it's high tier. But nobody talks about how overpowered that tank is. because it's at tier 7 and you're just forced to deal with it. Like, that tank really taught me a lot. Along with the IS-3, I used to think it was impenetrable, and now, I mean, there's definitely still players that are good in their IS-3, but the IS-3 just isn't as scary as what it once was to me. And you just get better at the game. You learn weak points. You learn shell types that you need, and the game gets easier. Pgilby misses that. Conway, I think he anticipated his turret to move a little bit faster, but it's broken, so it's not going to. And then he comes over, he gets his track fixed. You see he doesn't run any premium in his waffle, so he's not that guy. There are people that use the big gun and just load HE for the lulls. But that was pretty much the middle. And like I said before, I know, there wasn't a field battle, so his position didn't really get, put under a microscope. And us being able to talk about the positives and negatives and being able to show it. We talked about it. We didn't get to show it because the Reds didn't send anyone there. Which is another point on Siegfried Line. If you can win the field and you can win it fast, it helps to win it fast. But sometimes you can't win it fast. You have to slowly take your time and win the field methodically. But if you can win the field, nonetheless, the faster the better. Once you win it, you are pretty much taking 75% of the map, and you're going to put the Reds into a pincer maneuver. They either have to deal with their right side or their left side, and you can coordinate the attack with your team from city, and it works out phenomenal. Like, then the middle of the city doesn't even really matter, because you're going to be shooting at them from two sides, which is always a benefit. So Thyderion's match, he goes into the city, and this is generally where I'm going to be. Not that I don't play mediums a lot, because I do really like mediums, especially like sniping mediums. But I feel like I'm in more like heavyums or heavy tanks. Like to be the point man in the scrum, duking it out. Not to say you can't take your leopard or your scout here. You definitely can. You just have to pay attention to the map, keep an eye on it, rotate when your team needs you to rotate, and like I said, that's what I feel like winning cities is. So the 0 line we talked about in the beginning, if you don't spot that up, then generally they'll be able to proceed down to F0, but that kind of gets them stuck and they're not able to really support anything. Now, this cluster down in K0, I don't know what that's all about. I don't often see that on Siegfried Line, so that's kind of weird. But Thyderion is going to push around into this location, and the rest of his team is sort of with him. He's got two guys on the outside of the F line. He has a lot of tanks in J0 for some reason, but he's going to use this dead tank, and he's going to keep the Reds lit. Already has some shots in here to give them a hand, and he's just going to keep his lower plate covered. T110E5, I love this thing. I know a lot of people hate it, especially the tumor on its head, which I don't know how people say like it's an auto pen, because I struggle with it sometimes. Now, if you have premium in, it's going to be a lot easier, but it's definitely not an auto pen in my opinion. And if you want to be really good in your E5, you need to make sure that you're wiggling. If you're wiggling, you're going to bounce a lot of shells. Alright, so he's kind of in a pinch here. He's got the Patton in front of him, so if he pushes out to deal with the tank destroyers, the Patton will have his side. So he's kind of got to just sit tight. I mean, he could let a Patton have his side. I feel like he'd get some support, but seeing that the mediums are moving up the 0 line, he should get a pincer onto the Patton. So he's going to push up, gets a shot into that 704, takes him down. Waiting for that Patton to make a move. And Artie's landing some good shots in here, so he's confident enough that he's going to be able to progress forward. Misses that shot into the FV-202. Artie lands another shot into the Death Star. He backs up to bounce the Patton. Or was it the FV-202 that shot at him? I'm not sure. He's looking for a shot, waiting for that FV-202 to pull out. Hits his track. And now the tank's on the 0 line push up to kill the Patton. So he should be free to go. He gets a shot into the Death Star. Death Star is on a sliver. Lands a shot, gets him out of the game. Now he's got the FV-202 on his right. The FV-202 just killed his 432. He's gonna put pressure on these mediums. So there's an Earthshaker right here. There's a heavy tank behind the Earthshaker, but it looks like we have a heavy tank in the E6, which should be dealing with that. So they have them in a pincer, and then the FV is going to be on a sliver. He is side scraping, and I think at this point the Thyderion's like, what is taking you guys so long to kill that guy? So he pulls his turret over, he shoots, but the beach party gets the FV before he does. So had he seen that a little earlier, he probably would have been able to pick up that kill, which will be an important kill for us at the end that we wish we would have had. The 50B just throws his tank away like a buffoon. Thyderion takes him down, and then he's got to turn around. The Earthshaker shoots him in the engine deck, and there is a T-30 staring at him in the back on the ledge. So Thyderion fixes his motor, and then he's going to try to get out of range of this T-30, and the T-30 is looking to see if it's safe. Thyderion takes down the Earthshaker. He is tracked in front of the T-30. This is tragedy, and does he make it? Okay, what? T-30 just shoot HE? There's definitely like an explosion, so I didn't think it was an AP round, but he didn't damage the cupola at all. So it leaves Thyderion on a minuscule amount of hit points, and he is up to 4 kills, 10 pens. He's having a heck of a game. He really took city. Another point that I like to make is if you're in your heavy tanks, you need to be the point man in the city. Like, it's up to your mediums to rotate and flank. You need to be the point man, take the brunt of the force, and then hopefully your mediums will flank. If they don't, it's going to make it a lot harder to win the game. So if you die being the point man and you get frustrated with your medium tanks, that's fine. You can get frustrated with them, but chances are if they were just going to sit in the back and camp and snipe, you weren't going to win anyways. But it really helps out if you are heavy tank, you take point, you take the brunt of the force, and then that allows the mediums to flank around and get wins. It doesn't help your marks of excellence or your stats per se, but it definitely helps getting more wins. So had he picked up that FV-202, we would have got a Brothers in Arms, because I only got 3 kills and they both picked up 4 kills. Or not a Brothers in Arms. We got a Brothers in Arms, a Crucial Contribution. We fall 1 short, so I'll quit babbling. Hope you enjoyed. I know it was a long video, so if you're still around, appreciate it. I'll quit babbling. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next video.